Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and I'm just so confused right now. So, I I watched Cobra with Sylvester Stallone all in one day. It's a short movie. It's like 87 minutes, including credits, and I have so many thoughts and questions and unanswered questions, and I'm confused, and I don't know what's going on. So, Cobra is a movie that I remember when it came out really, really well. And for some reason, as a kid, I had this really, like, it bothered me. And I think I don't know, like, so obviously things were different back then. And there just wasn't as much content. Like, there was, like, effectively three channels, three ABC, NBC, CBS. He had PBS for public television. Then there was like HBO. There's a little bit of cable, but there just wasn't a lot of things. And then there wasn't a movie theater in my town, so like every movie I went to was like a big deal. It was like a family discussion, and then obviously the ratings. And you're a kid, you're not old enough. But I remember very much being kind of like obsessed with Cobra, but also it bothered me for some reason. And I think what bothered me is I sensed that there was something like arrogant about it. So I watched it, and I didn't hate it or really like it that much. I just found myself getting confused by it a lot. But the biggest thing that I kept thinking about is like, I don't like Sylvester Stallone's character. And the whole, in my opinion, the whole, you know, uh, suc- what am I trying to say? The reason for his success is that he plays likable characters, typically underdogs. Uh, Rocky, Rambo is an underdog. He's not an underdog, but emotionally he is, and his position in society he is. And even stuff like Barney Ross. Like Barney Ross is, he's the leader of this tough guy group, but they're also shown to be, pretty neurotic. And Barney just gets beat up a lot. Like in the first one, he has this big fight against Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he just loses it. At one point, he's walking out, he's all beat up. He's like, his team's like, "What happened?" He's like, "I got my ass kicked." And then this minor character in his team ends up beating up the guy. So uh, he typically plays good guys. I mean, that's kind of obvious. I can't think of a time where he played like a super just straight up villain. But yeah, so Cobra is kind of famous for they had a catchphrase and then they kind of built a movie around it. I remember it in the news being, underperforming, but I just looked it up and it did freaking great. It had like a $25 million budget and it made 150 million worldwide. So that's they usually say three times your budget and then everything after that is profit. So $125 million of profit. So what is Cobra? Cobra's about a guy who lives in the. I kept thinking about not Joss Whedon, Shane Black. Shane Black, Lethal Weapon. That's probably the thing. His biggest contribution to pop culture and culture in general is that this is the year before Lethal Weapon, and I was like, it really, really needs some Lethal Weapon style. So this kind of reminds me about, I would call like my dad's era of movies, like the old Dirty Harry. Like there's a cop, he breaks the rules, and his bosses yell at him, but then they also let him break the rules. And the villains are just kind of simple psychos. They're just crazy people, you know what I mean? Uh, but I don't know. It's like it's a short movie. I wouldn't say I was bored. It has a really good clip to it. Like there's I it it's hard to be fat in an 87-minute movie. And supposedly they actually filmed like a 2 hour plus movie, and then at the last minute they got nervous that it just wasn't there. As far as I can say, like I think the most entertaining bit to me was two things. Number one, there's just like these really weird, quirky decisions. I feel like it was kind of a lean story. It was like adapted from a novel, so it seems like there was not exactly improv, but like just weird takes. At one time, Cobra is he's stopping hostage situation in a grocery store, and he's gonna throw a beer, but then first he opens it and he drinks it, but it's a warm beer from like a display in the aisle, so it's like it's kind of weird. And then later on, he goes home and he's like in his cool guy, cop pad, which is this apartment that would probably cost like in current year probably like $4 or $5,000 a month. It's like right there on the beach. Oh, that gets another thing. It's like I didn't like Cobra. Cobra seemed really irresponsible and like a bully. Like at one point, there's like these vatos who are they're not even doing really any wrong. Like they're in a beach area, so it's always hard to park on the street. And one of them is kind of parked, and there's like not enough space in between them to like park there, but there, if you move forward, there would be. And like Cobra, Stallone's character comes up, he honks like twice, and then he just rams the guy's car. So then the guy's like, it's a real like stereotypical. He's like, "What are you doing, essay?" And then like, Cobra's like rips his shirt like in front of everyone. It's like, what the hell is this? And it doesn't go anywhere except for later you see that guy, and like he's scared of Cobra, and he moves for him. It's like, I know one of the appeals of this genre is like, satisfaction. It's like, well, I can't do this in real life because I get arrested, but wouldn't it be so satisfying? But it's like the guy didn't really do anything wrong. Now, I think he was supposed to be like a gangster, but he's not committing any crimes really. Like it just feels like you're just, abusing authority. And then when they do the hostage rescue, it seems really irresponsible because Cobra has a terrible plan, and at some point he just seems to be having fun, and like he's like, I got a bomb, and it's like Cobra's just like, whatever. Like usually you have a line in there. It's like, well, I could see that it was fake because these wires weren't. He just kind of looks at it like, like, okay. So one of the things I actually had to kind of reconfigure in my mind, and especially it was the cutting pizza thing, because I actually was like, why? Why did he cut pizza with scissors? And I kind of forgot about this. Being cool used to be a huge deal, not just in entertainment, but in life. Things right now, are significantly different than they were 30 plus years ago. I mean, just all, it's not just like political correctness. It's just like being cool, which is like, kind of like being above it all, physically tough, people don't mess with you. There's also an aspect of it. You had to like, kind of like look cool. That's kind of gone away. In fact, it's the opposite. You want to be like right now it's encouraged to be emotional and to be offended and to screech, but like back then it wasn't. It was really cool to have like this kind of like stern, beyond it expression. So why did he cut pizza with a knife? Because it's cool. Why did he drink a beer? Because he's not even worried about the situation. Why did he like just toy with the guy? Because he's so in control. He can even predict the future, essentially, and know that a bomb isn't a bomb, even though there's no way to confirm that it isn't a bomb. So once I remembered that like being cool used to be a big deal. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of funny because I was in like I don't think I was in the last generation. But I was probably like in the generation before the last generation where like fist fighting was a thing. So you kind of learned not to run your mouth unless you could like back it up. And now people just run their mouth all the time. And then I've even seen people like, oh, you got a problem? They try to get a fight. They're like, no, I don't fight. And you're like, but they're not ashamed. It's like, back in the day, you didn't run your mouth because you knew someone would just tell you to step outside. And then if you did step outside, there'd be like a huge shame in not doing it. It's like, well, that guy told you to step outside. You're a man, right? Why didn't you go? But now it's like just like the worst of all worlds. People are encouraged actively to not be cool, to be overly emotional, to be dramatic, to be hypersensitive. But then they're not expected to like back anything up. It's like, oh my gosh. We're in the worst timeline right now. So as for the story, it's very obviously edited like out of nervousness. There's a plot that's reduced to barely a subplot. So I guess there's a cult of people who are crazy and they're in all forms of society in LA, and they just kill people randomly. And the cops think it's one person because it's the same weapon, but like all of these crimes, I mean, there's like multiple footprints. I don't know. It's barely a story. What it is you know Sylvester Stallone, in good shape, wearing cool clothes with a cool haircut and a pretty girl, and they're running around, and he's got a cool gun. At one point at the end, they get attacked like by like 100 people, and Stallone is just kind of fine. Like, you know what I mean? He stands there with no cover. I was like, why isn't he taking cover? I go, oh, because it's not cool. You know, in your mind, if you're having like a power fantasy or a revenge fantasy, you're not taking cover. You're just like punching somebody in the middle of the street. They're flying across the street. So it's like, oh, okay. So it's just, I started to put in my head as like, who is this made for? This is made for like, a kid who's like, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be super tough and cool. Or like an adult who has to like work a, regular job and follow like regular society rules. He's like, man, but if I had my way, I'd do X, Y, and Z. So, yeah, it's basically a movie about being cool or wanting to be cool. And in that way, it's kind of okay. But like I said, I'm more into like the Shane Black. Like if you're gonna have humor, make it really funny, and if you're gonna have the action, pump the action up even more. I mean, I can't imagine what Shane Black would have done in like a 3-day rewrite on this script. But anyway, that's about it. So on my other channel, I've actually interrupted a comic book review to ask like, does anyone cut pizza with scissors? And somebody mentioned that this happens in Illinois. In some places in Illinois, they'll do that because I guess some places cut pizza into squares. And then somebody pointed out that in cutlery sets, there's always scissors. And I go, oh, that is right. In most cutlery sets these days, yeah, there is a pair of scissors in there. I think they call them shears, but whatever. So anyway, that's it. Why does Cobra cut pizza with scissors? Because it's cool. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll have, I don't know, some other movie tomorrow. Bye.